after checking out this book. So this book is My Little Pony, the movie's art book. It's a lovely book, it's one of my favorite in my collection, but it's got this very shiny cover, and as you take it off you see this gorgeous little artwork of the ponies. It's actually shiny, so that's cool. And for once, I am actually a fan of what the art book is about. I really love the first 3 seasons, I watched all of them, and I watched some couple of episodes here and there. It's a very cute, gorgeous show that teaches a lot about simplification, but also about problem solving. And I do think that the world will be a better place if more people actually watched My Little Pony, because the values and life lessons they teach in that show are actually really legit. And I think if more adult people were closer to their emotion and knew how to solve their problems, I think it would be great. It's not just about kids. These life lessons are really great for everyone. But now we're talking about this art book. So this art book is about the movie, but it also talks a little bit about the show, so that's also interesting. And for those of you who don't know, the Little Pony movie is about the 6 pony and the dragon traveling the world to find answers and stuff. Which means that you're gonna go through Equestria, but you're also gonna go through crazy parrots, caves. There's this underwater world that is gorgeous, lots of amazing colors. The ambience are amazing. Oh, I'm sorry, this book is a bit shiny, but we'll have to deal with it. So there's lots of different atmospheres and worlds. So it's a very, very diverse art book, and I love it for this. Very interesting colors. I love this page because they show you the castle town, but in 2 different moods. So it shows that it's not only about shapes, it's also about like the colors and the mood. Like 2 exact same, well, almost exact same places can look drastically different with lots of factors. So that's very interesting. And yeah, so they take you through a lot of different things in that book. So very diverse, very interesting. It's not one of my favorite for nothing. But that's not just the reason why I love that book. The reason I really enjoy this art book is because it's one of the very few books that actually talks about the struggles of going from TV artwork to feature film. So if you look closer here, they really take you through what is the TV art, what is the movie art, and how they relate to each other and why they made certain choices. Like, there is a lot of explanation in that book, and that is usually what I prefer when I buy art books. So if you're a bit like me and you like to read stuff, go for it. And the other reason why I absolutely love that book, it's because I think it's the only one that I own, and I own a lot. So I haven't seen any other art book, but that art book mentions Toon Boom. It's probably the only art book that talks about doing stuff in harmony. So if you're interested in learning more about how to do stuff in harmony, that's interesting. Sometimes they talk about what they could achieve because of the software, like how they changed a bunch of stuff. Here they talk about rigging. What other book talks about 2D rigging? Of course, there's not that much about 2D rigging in that book, but you know, they do mention some things here and there. Sometimes you're gonna go through some designs. Yeah, sometimes they're gonna show you the design of the character, and sometimes they cut away details, they change stuff to make it more animatable. So it's really interesting to see that point of view in the book. So that being said, I think that book is very interesting for people who want to work in 2D, but there's also a bunch of 3D in it, so that's also interesting. But if you want to make up your own mind, let's explore this book together. So first, let's look at the table of content. So first you have the foreword, then introduction, then you have the character designs of the main character, and then the book is separated with the world that they're going to visit. So there's Equestria, then there's kind of the desert beyond Equestria, there's a little town, there's the pirate ship, there's the cool mountain that is shaped like a horse, then there's the water world, then they go back to Equestria, but it's actually kind of destroyed and a bit more depressing. And so it's very interesting to see the trip in there. It's a bit less organized than some other art books where you're gonna have a section about character design, a section about BGs, a section about like compositing and stuff. This is a bit more convoluted, but I don't mind, so it's very great to just look around the book. So first, let's go into the introduction. So from small screen to big screen, that is a very interesting read. They talk about the challenges and the cool parts of going from TV to movie. As I said, there's not a lot of art books about that subject, so it's very interesting. And even more interesting is that the TV show is made in Flash, but the movie was made using Harmony. So the 2 softwares are not the same, so they had to redo a lot of the rig. So a lot of what they did is they, instead of having things very sharp and 2-dimensional, which works amazingly for the show, it looks gorgeous. But since they had a bit more budget and they wanted it to look a bit better on the big screen, they went for something that was a bit smoother overall, so less pointy curves, something a bit more realistic in their approach. But one thing they mentioned, and that is very interesting, is they really had to keep it simple because they didn't want to fall into the uncanny valley, right? Like, they have to be cute little horse. You don't want it to be a horse that is just weird, right? So very interesting to hear about that balance. Also, they made the line a bit thinner, and they were able to color the line a bit more, which is very interesting. So here they mentioned a bit of Toon Boom, and in another page in the introduction, they also talk about the colors, how they mostly kept the same colors, but they added a bit of gradients here and there. And by thinning the line, it also kind of changed the colors that you perceive, but it's the same color, so that's very interesting to look at. One thing that is fun too is that you know it's harmony because instead of having hexadecimal codes for their colors, they have the RGBs, so that's why there is 3 numbers after each colors. That's because of the way that Harmony reads colors. So then again, very generous. They give you a lot of information. Even here, they say that since they switched to Harmony, they were able to change the color of Rainbow Dash's hair so that every part of the rainbow was making a different color on the line art. That's all little things that you don't think about that they tell you. So that's very interesting for me. Here you have a comparison of what the show looks in TV and their first pitch of what it could look as a movie. And they also take you through some of the decisions they made, like not to have so many hair and stuff, and why they did that. So very interesting. Also in the introduction, you have a full turnaround. Not a lot of art book are going to give you that, so that's very cool. So that's the whole rig with all the little position. And one thing that I want to point out is that they have a profile, they have a quarter front, and then this is very interesting because when I work in studios, it's something that not a lot of people know how it's named. But you have a profile, you have a quarter front, which is 3/4, so a 3/4 front. And then you have the 5/8 and the 7/8. So these are super important, but lots of people don't really know what they are and don't use them. Because when you are on TV or in a show, sometimes you're going to use the 3/4 fronts all the time, but then the 3/4 front is a bit too in the front, and the front view is always a bit weird when it's in the front. So, and then of course you have some little animation help, very cool. Then you have the part about rigging that I was telling you about before. So what they're saying is that since they wanted it to be easier for animators, they kept all the joints round and they limited the amount of detail they had on joints, because we all know that this is awful to animate when you have details on joints, and also pointy limbs is harder to animate, so they didn't want that either. So in this, they're explaining that for character designs, they tried to get all of the joints to be round, which is amazing. I really like that because not everybody think of the animator. Sometimes it's just like, oh, the design looks cool. Animators can just like die and it's okay. So I really appreciated that. And in here, you have another very cool aspect of the movie. There was a lot of 3D involved. And you're going to see that a lot when you have rigs that are very high quality like this, or motion that needs to be really, really good. Think of Tangled, think of Lion Guard. A lot of the time for reference, either for lighting or for set design and stuff, we're going to use 3D. Now, we're not going to animate the characters in 3D as per se, but it's always good to have a little statue like this to trace over or just to imagine how the movement will go. And for all of you people who tell me, oh, that's cheating, like real artists, they don't need to trace 3D and stuff, I will just remind you that back in the days, when they were animating on paper, they had these little statues or whatever. I mean, that's a fun code, but they would have these little statues that they would turn around and refer to get the angle. That is the same that they're doing with their 3D model. So very interesting that they're sharing this. Not everyone does that. That's also cool. And yeah, so that's it for the introduction. Honestly, the introduction is one of my favorite parts because I'm a very technical dork, so I love to learn all about these little things here and there. But then you get to Equestria, which is the first part that we're going to look at together. I have some little things here that I want to show more precisely. Into the Equestria part, there is this gorgeous drawing that they show. Because most art book are going to show you concept art that is kind of final and colored and stuff. A lot of the time, they're not going to show you the perspective grid either. But in this book, you see here you have the line of horizon and how the perspective lines are layered out. And that is gold. It's gorgeous. Any one of you want to learn background design and stuff, it's a very interesting way to see. There's a few other drawings like that that have the grid, so that's very nice to study just how it's made. Beautiful, beautiful set designs, beautiful colors. These little props are also interesting because it's not final drawings, it's just people trying to figure out how they would like. So it's nice to see their thought process. Here you have sparkles, sparkle particles, oh yes. Here we have another one of my few favorite pages. This action drawing is gorgeous. It's fun to look at. It's fun to try to reproduce. Very dynamic. Here you have another thing that it's not often shared. It's animation breakdowns. So usually when you work in animation, you're gonna get, yes, a character rotation and some emotions like this, but sometimes you also have to know how your character blinks. So if you're someone trying to prepare like a series or something, this is always something that is forgotten, like how the character blinks is actually important. So if you can figure it out before the production starts, that's kind of great. All right, people are gonna be thankful later. You have a blink. You also have some bend in the limbs guides, if I may. So that's also very precious to look at how they were building these things. Here is more cool designs. I love how generous they are with the drawings and the poses and the exploration, because not all of this is final, but it's nice to see their thought process. Then you have Beyond Equestria, which is like just the other lands, so it just goes on and on with gorgeous, gorgeous artwork. I love these kind of big color keys. Oh, the Cludge town, I forgot what it's called, but that town is very cool. You have so many angles. Then again, perspective line, very interesting. A lot of character design for the citizen. I love that they're all different, but because of their shape language, they all fit together, which is cool. Gorgeous, gorgeous illustration, very nice to look at. Oh, so just so you know, when you have these cartoony books, just remember that people that draw cartoons can also draw very realistic shapes. So it's kind of good to be good at both, because it helps you in one or the other fields. So just so you know. And then you just keep going, and that's another part that I like, is when they compare colors. Just look at these two. Just the fact that it's not the same color changes the characters so much. So also interesting to take a look at that. More gorgeous images. Then we get to the pirate world, which is one of my favorites. In these pages, they show you through Captain Solano. In here, they're going to take you through the captain. Again, very cool, interesting poses. Nice thought process. The crew, very, very cool. Lots of images. Then again, more realistic, but it's always cool to have the realistic approach and see how they simplified it for the TV. You even have the ship's design. That's super cool to see the thought process behind this. Very cool, detailed plan. They did plan to have these in the movie, but that would have been way too much animation to take care of. So as cool as they look, I'm kind of happy that they made the decision not to go with such complex design. And I think it just proved that a lot of people knew what they were doing when they made that movie, which is great. You don't see that often. And then you have Mount Aris, which is that huge mountain shaped like a kind of a Pegasus horse. Very cool. It's just beautiful. Then again, more realistic drawing and how they simplified it. Equestria is just gorgeous. The colors are amazing. I would want to live there. It's just gorgeous colors and shapes. Beautiful. I love these. It's so beautiful. Such a shame that the detail is in the middle, but you know, that's life when you have a book. Queen Novo, such a cool character. Here you have another cool set of pages. I love to see all of these poses and little notes. That book is full of little notes, so it's always amazing to see what was the thought process of all these people. Coloring artists in this book knew what they were doing. It's so amazing. I know it's not for everyone to love such colorful things, but I do, so sue me. So just more of these cool pages. Very nice little comparison between the thumbnails and the final show. And yeah, so that's it for this book. There's a little afterword by the director, which is always fun to know what's going on in their head. Sadly, we don't have the credits for this art book like you got into the Steven Universe art book. But it's still okay because there's still the name of the artist, but to find them, you just have to look at the pictures and find their names. So it's not that bad if you want to find them online and stuff. But yeah, so that's it for this lovely, gorgeous book. So I don't think there's a targeted artist audience for that book. I really like it because of the colors, the designs, and the whole part where they explain like going from the show to the movie. That's something I really enjoyed. But overall, it's a classic art book with lots of artwork. It was very, very generous. So if that's your kind of art book, go for it. yeah, so I do like the little technical aspect of it. It doesn't go too deep into the technical stuff, so don't expect to get this book and like learn a lot about how they merge 2D and 3D together. Like, they don't really talk about it. They don't talk about how they rig the character. So on a technical standpoint, it's very surface level, but on a design standpoint, they talk about a lot of the design and the color choices and the emotions. So very interesting. So less so for very technical artists, but it's a very great thing for designs. And I mean, if you just love the show and how it looks, just get it. I like it. So it gets a thumbs up. Have a nice day!